All over the world, people are up to all sorts of weird stuff, but in some places, everyone seems to be doing it. From a town that has been on fire for 50 years to a place where most of the inhabitants are dead, here are 20 weirdest cities in the world. Number 20. Dongguan, a city in China where, due to a lack of men, women compete to find a boyfriend. In China, the trend is generally that there are way more men than there are women. This is apparently a result of their infamous one-child policy, which has resulted in many more sons than daughters. But there is one city that somewhat inexplicably has quite the opposite problem. There are too many women. Women in this town compete to find a husband. Or, if you prefer, there are not enough men. However you might say it, there's an imbalance in the genders which makes finding a partner tricky for women and remarkably easy for the men who live there. The city of Dongguan is located in the south of China in Guangdong province, and it's a city that's well known as it is where many electronic products are made. Yes, including iPhones and iPads. The manufacturers in the city seem to have a preference for female workers, apparently. They say women are more reliable than men, so they employ a larger proportion of women. This means that the jobs in the area have attracted more women to work there, but the effects of this have also been that there are now far more women there than there are men, and the men seem to find it difficult to get decent work. They can, however, get a girlfriend, and they apparently have time for more than one, since they rarely work, but all the women are gainfully employed. Some of these men have 3 girlfriends and no job. Well, they sound lovely, don't they? Number 19. This island is overrun with rabbits. So here we have the island of bunnies, which is a weird and super cute example of Japan's kawaii obsession in action. The island of Okunoshima in the inland sea of Japan is home to a population of thousands of wild rabbits, for real. The bunnies are protected by law, cats and dogs are banned, and these cute fluff balls are left to their own devices, which is generally, as I'm sure you know, to breed like rabbits. But despite the fact that this is essentially a perpetual bunny orgy, it remains an enormously popular place for tourists to visit. A favorite activity for visiting humans seems to be to get involved with the rabbits and actually lay on the ground while the animals hop all over them. It's cute, I guess, but the sheer numbers of bunnies is enough to give me pause. There is something of the horror movie feeling about all of this, even if it does seem cute to begin with. Thousands of bunnies crawling all over you. There's nothing weird about that at all. Number 18. The floating city that doubles as an oil rig. This unique city is actually located way out in the Caspian Sea, about 100 kilometers, which is around 60-odd miles, from Baku, the capital city of Azerbaijan. Neft Dazlari is a city built entirely on oil platforms and artificial islands. This oil rig city is home to about 3,000 people and is connected by a network of trestle bridges. Also known as Oil Rocks, this city is a real symbol of the resources-rich nation of Azerbaijan, and this nation has been drilling for oil since 1870, at a time when Russia had first conquered the nation itself. Azerbaijan at one point was producing 75% of the oil in the Soviet Union, so the establishment of this floating city kind of makes sense. It was begun by sinking 7 ships in order to form a foundation, and then as time went on, it grew to incorporate 2,000 drilling platforms, which were then joined by a load of bridges. But they built 8-story apartment buildings, a drinks factory, a football pitch, a bakery, library, laundry, movie theater, vegetable garden, and even a park on the place. And that was in its heyday, but these days it's a different matter, and a rather sorry state of affairs, with much of it now collapsed into the sea. Number 17. The highest altitude city in the world. La Paz is the capital city of Bolivia, sitting at an absurdly high 3,869 meters above sea level, which is over 12,500 feet. Now, El Alto is even higher though, at 4,150 meters, and that makes it a city that is the highest altitude in the world. To put it into perspective just how high that really is, the next highest city is Quito in Ecuador at 2,784 meters, or over 9,000 feet above sea level. Living at such a high altitude doesn't necessarily come all that easy. There is a real lack of oxygen up there, and a certain amount of health risks associated with living at this level. El Alto grew out of the fact that land became increasingly more expensive in the neighboring city of La Paz, so people began to look further outside, and El Alto has developed into a mess of streets and poor infrastructure that struggles to accommodate the pressure of the expanding population. Living at high altitudes all your life is not exactly easy, but your body does adapt at a certain point. For tourists to the area, though, it's almost impossible. It's hard to breathe up there, making even walking extremely hard work. Other things, like digesting food, can become very difficult indeed, and many will actually suffer from altitude sickness. Despite the inherent difficulties at these heights, millions of people call these places home. Number 16. Twin Town in South Brazil. The small Brazilian town of Candido Godoy has only 7,000 inhabitants, but for some unknown reason, it's home to more than 10 times the national average of twins. These twins didn't just decide to rock up and make it a twin town. Oh no, they were all born here, and it's rather spooky, and nobody seems to be able to explain it. People make the usual comments about there being something in the water, but the truth is that despite drawing huge interest from geneticists, it's still rather mysterious. The town itself doesn't seem to be too upset about any of it at all. In fact, in the school classroom, many children actually find that it's more common to be a twin than not to be. The town is really leaning into their unique feature as well, and they hold a festival every 2 years, get it, 2 years, twins, which celebrates their twin population. Some of the people believe that this excessive number of twin births is simply the result of the families with twins marrying each other, except that apparently having identical twins is not actually hereditary. Oh, how the plot does thicken. Number 15. Juscar, the Blue Village. In an area of the world where the houses are generally painted white, in fact that is the rule in some nearby places, the decision to paint every house in this village a rather obnoxious shade of blue seems a little bit bizarre. When you find out the reason behind it all, it gets even more weird. Juscar is a village in southern Spain, about 70 miles away from Malaga, and it's about 15 and a half from Ronda, a beautiful and famous tourist town. Juscar used to receive visitors on account of its attractive appearance and local hiking opportunities, but these days, the village attracts way more visitors than it did in the days before it turned blue. In June of 2011, the village actually painted its whole entire self bright blue, from every single building, from the church to the town hall, and everything in between. It was all painted for the film Smurfs 3D. Once the film was completed and all the promotion done, they just decided to keep it all blue. Completely insane? Well, probably, but they now have an average of 250 visitors per day and claim to be the first ever Smurf town. There were some legal issues with the creator of the Smurfs, in which the villagers were required to pay 12% of their Smurf royalties to him, but apparently that has since been resolved. These days, the village prefers to go by the Blue Village rather than the Smurf Village, and are happy for the last pieces left from the movie to be removed. It would probably all wear a bit thin after a while, wouldn't it? Number 14. Coober Pedy Underground. There are a whole lot of crazy things in the middle of the Australian outback. You know, stuff that could kill you, stuff that nobody's seen for hundreds of years, and stretches of scorched earth that go on for miles and miles where nothing much lives except the occasional snake. But right there, in the middle of that desert, there's also a mining town where people literally live underground. Coober Pedy is an opal mine in the South Australian desert, located an 8-hour drive from either Adelaide in the south or Alice Springs in the north. The town of Coober Pedy is off the grid and more or less completely hidden underground. Many of the town's inhabitants live in dugouts, which are cave-like dwellings in which they're able to protect themselves from the utterly freezing season and intensely scorching season. There's little else in between the Australian desert, but these underground homes are still extraordinary places to live, and they may be hewn from the rock, but they're filled with the lives and personalities of those who call Coober Pedy home. The people that live here are forced by sheer necessity to carve out a different way of life. They have to be resourceful and adept in problem solving as they continue to exist in this, one of the harshest places to squeeze out an existence. Number 13. Monkeys are overwhelming the city of Delhi. Why is it that people still get so easily fooled by monkeys? I mean, these animals are grinning at you because they have somehow managed to convince you that they're being cute when they're actually robbing you blind and offering up a platter of nasty diseases for your perusal. Such charmers. And because people have given these bad monkeys so much freedom and encouraged them to act like total hooligans, well, guess what? Yes, those monkeys are now being extra bad, and they're set to take over the city of Delhi. It's really all a bit Planet of the Apes over there, and we should probably be at least a little bit concerned about it. These monkeys are total and absolute a-holes, and they don't give a flying chuff about manners or personal space or anything like that at all. The monkeys of Delhi are basically just trying to mug people out of their dinners, but if they happen to pickpocket a phone or something else that's inedible, well, they'll just chuck that object on the floor with disgust. So if you happen to be anywhere near these monkeys, expect to be robbed, and likely as not, for your stuff to be busted up by a bunch of vandals. So rude. Number 12. Aircraft carriers are their own gigantic floating cities with thousands of people. While we may think of aircraft carriers as being military vessels which carry naval crews and aircraft to the places that they need to be all over the world, there's a whole lot more going on in these vast ships than we may first imagine. The average aircraft carrier is basically a floating city, and within that city, there are the facilities for their primary function as mobile air bases, but they also have everything that people need and more for everyday living as well. On board these vast vessels, there are thousands of airmen, dozens of aircraft, nuclear reactors, hospitals, barbershops, chapels, and they even have their own zip codes. Each of 10 existing United States aircraft carriers has to be completely overhauled during its 50-ish year tenure, and that means a total remodel in order to update everything from the living facilities to all of the technology inside. Fixing up a whole floating city can take thousands of people, years to achieve, and many billions of dollars to spend. These are some of the most expensive things in the whole of the US military, and that's really saying something. Number 11. Nagoro, a creepy Japanese village where dolls replace the departed. Japan has a bit of a problem with its population in more small rural areas. For many years, people have been cramming themselves into the big cities, in particular in Tokyo, and the countryside and small villages have suffered from ever-decreasing populations. Nagoro is one such village that's located in the valley of Shikoku in Japan. The village has so few residents left that one of its inhabitants has began replacing those who have left or died with dolls. Each doll represents a specific individual who once inhabited the place, and these dolls are the work of Tsukimi Ayano. She has made as many as 350 of these life-size dolls to take up space in her home village. They sit in the schoolroom, the fields, down by the river, and alongside the road. The creator says that they are there to help her feel less lonely in her beautiful, almost empty village. But I don't know, is getting creeped out and jumping out of your skin every 5 minutes an actual improvement? Number 10. The Town from Hell, Michigan. Now, this is actually a town called Hell, and it is in Michigan in the United States. They've no doubt heard all of the jokes available on the topic, but they actually really lean into the whole theme, as you would probably have to guess. Never mind all this depths of underground business, Hell is right here on planet Earth. Who knew that Hell was actually located just 20 miles to the northwest of Ann Arbor in Michigan? Despite the fact that Hell is actually set in some rather beautiful landscape, surrounded by hills and glistening inland lakes, they are really rather happy to furnish visitors with a bit of spooky theming and all-year-long Halloween stylings. It's all done with good humor, though, of course. There's an ice cream parlor called Scream's Crematory, plenty of Welcome to Hell signs for those fun pictures, the Hell Hole Diner, and the Hell Saloon. After all that fun, you can actually send a postcard from the United States Post Office in Hell, where apparently they'll actually lightly singe your mail for you if you request. Or if you're feeling romantically inclined, you could always get married in Hell. What a fun one. Number 9. The Burning Town in Pennsylvania. Centralia in Pennsylvania is a literal trash fire of a town. The place has been on fire for more than 50 years, and despite being repeatedly warned, there are still a few residents who refuse to believe that it's dangerous and will not leave under any circumstances. That's right, this town has been on fire since a landfill fire spread into an abandoned coal mine many decades ago, and it's continued to burn beneath the town ever since. As time has passed on, more and more efforts have been made to prevent people from being harmed by the fire. The highway has been diverted around the town, and the main street has been blocked off, and the population, which was previously as much as 1,000 people, has mostly departed long ago. The trouble is that the problems that the fire cause are not necessarily immediately visible. The fire can create sinkholes, which can appear rapidly and without warning, and it can also make toxic gases which seep into the atmosphere and can create health problems. But the people who remain there are steadfast in their desire to stay. It is, despite the fire, still their home after all. Number 8. The sandstone town Matmata, Tunisia. The otherworldliness of the Mata troglodyte homes in southern Tunisia is a spectacle unlike any other on Earth. These remarkable buildings are a link with the ancient past of the fascinating North African country, and they're also a massive draw for tourism into the area. Of course. These ancient homes are literally dug into the landscape in a network of centuries-old passageways and chambers. The town of Matmata is located on the very edge of the Sahara Desert in a landscape of palm trees and olive groves, approximately 20 miles to the south of the nation's capital. These buildings have been inhabited by people for centuries and are still inhabited today by many of the indigenous people of North Africa, and these homes are a living, breathing preservation of the culture and history of these people and the region. This region has almost no wood or stone with which to construct any kind of buildings, so these dwellings were simply dug out of the earth. An ideal way for the people who live there to avoid the heat of the desert was to go underground where the temperature was regulated naturally. Each of the homes built here follows a basic construction pattern in which there are central sunken courtyards, often with a well, and from this center there are usually several small rooms, or chambers if you will, which would be connected by passageways. They enter into their homes via a ladder or a tunnel, but what do you think of these remarkable homes? Would you enjoy living underground like this? Let me know all about it in the comments down below.